Have you ever cringed when somebody told you to just do your best and it'll be fine? Because I have, and when I hear that, I instantly start calculating the odds in my head. Like, what kind of best are we talking about here? My best? My obsessive best? Because you just said it'll be fine only after I do my best, and so if I can't do my best, then will it ever be fine? Will I ever be safe? What happens if I can't do my best? This is perfectionism, and perfectionism is a pretty cruel mind game. However, by the grace of God, I am a recovering perfectionist. God's working with me on it, and He can help both of us, all of us, work together to get through this. I want to talk today about 2 hard truths and 2 hope truths that I think can help us all who struggle with these perfectionism mindsets work through it and deal with it. So the first thing I want to talk about is one of the hard truths, and this is the hard truth that you can never do well enough to satisfy your perfectionism. You simply can't. It's so easy for me to assume that when someone tells me to do my best, what they mean is I have to stop doing everything else. I have to focus entirely on this. I have to make sure that I've got all the books read and all the research done in order for me to be able to say that I have done my best. And what that turns into for me is an obsession on one area of my life and the total falling apart of the other areas of my life, if you know what I mean. Like, for example, I used to be a college literature teacher, and I would really obsess over my lessons to an unhealthy degree. Like, I would get up, I'd go to work all day, come home, eat a quick meal, go back to the coffee shop, work till 10 o'clock at night, over and over and over. We're talking a serious imbalance here because I wanted to be able to do my best. But even then, I'm teaching a lesson on Beowulf. Have I read all the books? Have I read all the research? Have I looked at all the historical stuff? The answer is no, because I can't. I can't. Even when I do try to do my best, so often my perfectionism will never be satisfied because there's always one more book I could read, one more thing I could do, one more research I could do. And when I try to satisfy my perfectionism by just working harder, hard truth, it doesn't work. It simply doesn't work. It's never enough to be my best. So hard truth number 1, you will never do enough to satisfy your perfectionism. I don't care what area of life it's in. It's never going to be enough. It always is going to demand more. Hard truth number 2, perfectionism likes to promise you or tease you with the idea that if you could just do enough, then you would be safe. If I could just do enough with my lesson, I would be a good teacher. My students will be happy. The school will be happy. Everybody will be happy. And I think it comes when we hear that saying, just do your best and it'll be fine. One of the problems is that the whole it'll be fine comes after the do your best. So we've just established in hard truth number 1, I can't do my best. So if I can't do my best, my obsessive best that perfectionism wants from me, if I can't do my best, how can it ever be fine? Because being fine only comes after doing my best. And therefore, what happens? What I see in my life and in the lives of others really is 2 possible paths. One is frenetic, increasingly panicked effort. And that's like what I did with my first years of teaching. Just do more, stay up as long as you can, get up early, get to work, skip lunch, skip other things, just do more. And it's unhealthy. It's not right. It's doing more than I ought to do to try to control my life. The other path that I've also walked down is giving up. Why would I try to risk something? Why would I try to risk embarrassment or pain or discomfort when everything's doomed anyway? I can't do my best. Things aren't going to be fine. So why would I keep trying to do that? And for me, one of the things that really touched my life and affected me in that way is I was afraid of being a mom. Like, that's a big responsibility. That's a lot bigger than any Beowulf lesson, right? And that held me back for years, those fears. I have 4 kids now, but I adopted them when I was 40, so I kind of did things a little backwards there. But when when we look at these hard truths, I am calling them truths because they are true. Perfectionist tempts us to want to control, want to do all the things so that we can be in control. But the hard truth, the fact is, I can't. I can never do enough to satisfy my perfectionism to be able to say, yes, I have done my absolute best in this area. I can never do enough for that. And number two, I can never do enough to guarantee that I'm going to be safe. My Beowulf lesson might be horrible. I don't know. I don't think it was, but like it could have been. My parenting might fail. I can never do enough, learn enough, put myself through enough training or teaching in order to guarantee that things are going to turn out right, which is what perfectionism really wants so badly. Now, if I stop here, I am backed into a terrifying corner, right? And perfectionism tempts me to stop here. Perfectionism tempts me to not go on to any other kinds of truth. It says, try harder, do more. If you just do a little more, you don't really need those 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night, right? You could get by on like 6 or maybe 5 or 4 for a while, right? Just until you get over this next thing, just so that you can be safe. And the temptation is to accept that as the truth. But these hard truths, while they are true, they are not the whole truth. And I think that is where we have to, those of us who are tempted to perfectionism really have to be careful. If you don't look at the whole truth, you're going to draw the wrong conclusions. And as a Christian, I am just delighted to say that there are hope truths as well. It's not just the hard truths that perfectionism wants us to end, and we don't have to end there. And in fact, we shouldn't end there. If we end there, we are living in a world that isn't real. We have to go on to the hope truths, even in the points where it feels like we're not making it, that we're not getting done what we want to get done. Hope truth number 1 then is that really and truly God is stronger than your weaknesses, and it's about Him. It's not about what you can do. This is a passage probably familiar to a lot of us who struggle with perfectionism, but I think it's one that we really need to keep forefront of our mind here. And it's in 2 Corinthians 12, where Paul is talking about his thorn in the flesh. And I just want to read part of it with you. So Paul has just talked about how he has been caught up into the third heaven and had pretty special revelation. And he goes on in verse 7, to keep me from being conceited because of these surpassingly great revelations, there was given me a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me. And I think that can be pretty familiar for anyone who struggles with perfectionism. Here is what sure looks like a weakness, right? There's this thing, we don't exactly know what it is, but there's this thing that Paul could look at and be like, this is preventing me from doing my best. If this were gone, I could do so much better. I could work so much harder. I could just have so much more impact and influence. This is keeping me from doing my best. This is weakness. I can't do what I want to do because of this thorn in the flesh. So God, can you just take it away? Can you take away this thing and let me do my best? And God's answer to that is not what the perfectionism wants. It's not, oh yeah, I'll just take this away. I'll let you do your best. No. Instead, in verse 9, it goes on, but he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Weakness? That's not what my perfectionism wants to hear. My perfectionism does not want to acknowledge my weakness. It doesn't want my weakness to exist. It wants my weakness to all go away. I'm going to be in complete control. I'm going to get this done. It's going to be perfect. And that is not what God says we need, what Paul needs or what we need here. What's the hope truth? God is stronger than your weaknesses. It is His power working through you. That's the important thing. It is not your ability to read all the books about Beowulf. It is not even your ability to be the 100% perfect mom that you wish you were. It is God's ability, not ours, that we need to rest on for our safety, our security, and for our ability to move forward. And Paul goes on too here. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses so that Christ's power may rest on me. I don't like to boast about my weaknesses. My perfectionism says hide that. Pretend it doesn't exist. Make it go away. Don't boast about it. Those are the things that are making you unsafe. Like, you don't want that. But that is not what God says. God's strength is what matters. God's ability to help me, to give me the strength to do what he wants me to do, to surrender, that's what matters. This isn't just nice Christian talk, right? Oh yeah, surrender to the Lord, yeah, but really work really hard behind the scenes. No, that's not what it says. This is, according to the Bible, how the universe really works. I don't have to be perfect. Paul doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, his weaknesses are what allows God's strength to shine through him. And his weaknesses help him become more pleasing to God, even, because there's no room for him to be conceited. He knows it's not him doing it. It's God's work. It's God's power. It's God's strength. So because of this hope truth, I can then move on to the second hope truth, which is that God is the one who enables me to work appropriately. When I talked about the hard truth number one is you can never do enough to satisfy your perfectionism. Well, that's met by hope truth number one. I don't have to. God is stronger than my weaknesses. God's power is made perfect in my weaknesses. So perfectionism, I don't have to worry about that. I can't do everything. And then hope truth number two meets that hard truth number two. So hard truth number two is that you can never do enough to make sure that you and your family are 100% safe. And people tend to either go along the paths of frantic effort or withdrawing. Hope truth number two is that no, you don't have to do either of those. God enables us to work appropriately. Now, it's not like I just sit around and don't do anything if I'm not a perfectionist. That's not an option, and that doesn't glorify God either. Okay, but I need to work appropriately. I need to work according to the guidelines that God has given me. I can't fall into either the frenetic effort that is actually hurting things, or I can't fall into like just opting out and not engaging with life. So through this passage, I can see that I don't have to work like everything depends on me. It's not about me. When I'm weak, then I'm strong. So God is giving me the strength to be able to say, okay, I've done my day's work. For the rest of it, I'm going to have to trust in God to give me the right words while I'm teaching. I'm going to have to trust in the Lord to help me the next time this parenting challenge comes up. The challenges are going to come. The hard things are going to come. You're going to want to be prepared, and it's okay to work for that. Paul isn't just sitting around doing nothing, but it's okay for me to stop and say, I have put in an adequate amount of time on this, and I'm going to have to trust God to carry me through what happens next. And second, it also shows me that God's power isn't just a pass for me to be lazy or withdraw from life or to say, I can't do it, so I'm never going to even try. Paul goes on and says, that is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. It's hard to say I delight in those things, but that's what Paul says. And he's not sitting around. He's not not doing anything. He's not pulling back. He's engaging. He's getting out there. He's being persecuted. He's having hardships. He's doing stuff. I don't have to fear engaging in life, like in being a mother, in taking the next step towards a goal. I don't have to be afraid of that. I don't have a guarantee that it's going to turn out how I want. Like, things obviously aren't all, sunshine and roses for Paul here, but I don't have to pull back and disengage, because it's God's power that's going to help me through the next step, through the decisions that I have to make in the future. So really the question boils down to, Christians, are you living like this passage is true? When those perfectionism thoughts come, what are you going to do with them? Because those hard truths, they are true. You can never do enough. and you can never guarantee that you're going to be 100% safe. And you're going to be tempted to either do too much or to pull back. So while those hard truths may be true, however, Christian, they absolutely pale in comparison to the hope truths. We can't lean into the first truths and ignore the second ones. We've got to instead go to the hope truths. We've got to go to our Father's power and His goodwill towards us. He cares about you. He's the one providing you the power to do what He's called you to do. So what do? One thing I would do is just meditate on this passage. Read through it. Think about it. What is it saying? Pray through this. What does it say about how God's power worked in Paul's life and in my life too? Other things you can do, read the Gospels. Meditate on who Jesus is. This is so pivotal. Learn who this Jesus is that we profess to follow. What is He like? How does He live? How can we be in alignment with Him instead of trying to make the world align with us, which is what perfectionism does? No. How do we be in alignment with what Jesus says? And check your thinking. When those perfectionist thoughts come, and they will come, they come to me too. What am I thinking about? Am I thinking about how I have to do all this work to make this work out? Or am I thinking about how, no, Christ's power is at work in me. Christ gives me the power to work appropriately. I'm going to pray about this and see what in this situation I ought to be doing. So, can we change in this area? I am tempted, of course, to say, well, I'll try my best. But no, obviously that's not the solution. The answer is yes, we can change. Not because we're so good at it, not because we're so good at powering through our perfectionism and not doing it anymore. No, even in this, we can do this because God has given us His word and God has given us His counsel, and because we know that where we are weak, there He is strong.